now officially a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
I can see my fantasy, I'm so consumed in bed. What I see takes over me, I'm blind beyond repair.
So this is going to be a fun one. As it stands, I am the only person in this room. I'm the only one talking to me, so I really hope my audio is working on this. So, as you know, I am Ethan Hubbard. Currently, you see there is no one here but me. And I am on a forklift, and you can find us at On a Forklift Pod on Twitter. You can find me at Jensen Collins 3 on Twitter. You can find the rest of the crew, Clinton Davis, not currently with us this evening, and PK Batman on Twitter. You can find Russell Joy on Broad, and you can find, holy shit, it's Trevor Davis on Twitter at Nightmare Cuda. You can also find us, Channel Snickle Fritz on YouTube or twitch.tv/PK Batman 420. And as always, Thursdays at 9 on UPN. It's been a big week in wrestling. And being that this is how it's going tonight, I think this just gets me to kind of run as what's going on. Maybe it's only me. Who knows what's going on? So we had Money in the Bank. Last week, we had Blood and Guts. This week, quite a banger of a Dynamite, if I may say. Plus, plethora of other wrestling news that has happened. So I'm going to let's do some quick hits here real quick that I know of in case anybody else wants to show up. NXT UK. So Ilya Dragunov was injured during a taping and had to vacate the title. I don't think I'm ruining anything here for anybody, but then Tyler Bate has defeated Trent Seven at the next NXT UK tapings to become a two-time NXT UK champion. That's about all I have to say about that. Money in the Bank, I actually thought was a pretty solid pay-per-view. I know a lot of people are disappointed in the Theory win. However, come on, guys. You saw it happening from the beginning. You saw Theory lose his title. You know what was going to happen. All I know is that I'm really happy for Liv. I'm happy that she won. The promo on Monday, not the best promo in the world. But you know what? She's going to work on it, and she's going to get over there. If there's anything that Liv does well, it's gets there and works on stuff. So I'm happy for her. I think it's going to be a fun run. It's probably not going to be too long. I'm seeing like a 60-day run, maybe. But yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, as a whole, though, man, what a weird week in wrestling, and what a great week in wrestling at the same time. So setting up for SummerSlam, as it rolls into SummerSlam, we really only have 3 matches set up for this at this point. We're probably going to get the Usos and Street Profits for the tag titles again. And then we have Reigns and Lesnar for the title. And then we have Pat McAfee and Baron Corbin, which let's talk about a little bit of long-term storytelling here. Pat McAfee and Baron Corbin used to both play for the Indianapolis Colts. Baron Corbin obviously is a stage name, but they were roommates during 2009. I know this stuff has been beating around on the Twitter space, but man, what a good little bit of progressive and long-term storytelling that is going on. I'm sorry, I keep looking off this way. I got a new dog, and I'm afraid he's eating something. Toga, come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. Come here. The world wants to see Toga. Yeah, you guys want to see Toga? Come here. Toads. This is Toga. Hi, say Toga. Look at the computer and say hi to everybody. Did he? We're getting the puppy views now. Oh, I think he farted on me. Anyway, Pat McAfee, Baron Corbin. Pat's great on the mic. Baron's actually very underrated on the mic. As much as I dislike Baron Corbin for being like the 3-move in-ring guy, which is hilarious because if you think about it, you got other people that are just 3 moves in the ring and you love them. John Cena. I'm just excited, man. I'm super excited about this. I feel like the build is going to be good going up to that. I know we've still got about 4 weeks until the pay-per-view happens, so there's a decent amount of shows in there to get the real build towards it. I'm just really concerned that they're going to push everything. SummerSlam is just building to Clash in the Castle, and that's that's kind of hurting me. I don't really want to see that happen. I want to see a continued effort going along with everything. So that's what all I have to touch on for WWE at this current moment in time. Let's give a nice little rundown on what happened on AEW, and then I'll get into the bits. So AEW started off, we had the TNT Championship street fight. Scorpio Sky going in as the champion facing Wardlow. It ended the right way because guess what, everybody? Welcome to Wardlow's world. And this is where we are at. Oh my goodness. You are absolutely not going to believe what is about to happen.
Finally. No, I'm not even doing it. It is Wardlow's world, and I'm happy that we get to live in it.
Everybody, welcome. This is the voice of Philadelphia sports betting radio. You can find him at Joy on Broad. You can also find him on Snow the Goalie. Just after this podcast, there's going to be live coverage of the NHL draft, which, by the way, how'd you like your pick?
Well, I was having a nice night, and then I watched today unfold.
Morgan Freeman's here with us, everybody.
Yeah, I have so much to say about hockey. I'll do that on Snow the Goalie, but let me just say, I watched the incompetence of the Philadelphia Flyers on full display, and not thrilled with what just happened. So there's that.
Are you shocked? Are you shocked about it? Yeah. Hey, guess what, everybody? We're not doing On a Forklift tonight. This is On a Forklift's first ever NHL draft coverage party.
Shane Wright falls to 4.
And you don't trade up?
No, it's not even that.
I
said at the time, I was mad because the Flyers won a meaningless game against the Pittsburgh Penguins late in the season. And I said, that's going to come back to bite them. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it will. And it was like, it cost them, I think, the best shot at like getting a top 3 pick. I don't remember off the top of my head. And I'm like, this is going to kill them. And then what happened? Shane Wright's there at number 4. You don't get him. Then you take Gauthier, who's fine. What was the song by the singer Gauthier? Was that like, didn't have to cut me out? That was Gauthier, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, Implishes is on here with WWE's draft is better than the NHL draft. Fight him.
Could be true.
First off, not if you're swinging with your left hand, because that thing is damaging. Anyway, let's talk about things that are healthy and good for the brain, like professional wrestling.
I don't think you know what healthy or good for the brain means. If that's what
I don't think so at all. But it did start out the right way. We got the right result. We got the thing we've wanted to happen for so long. The TNT title is in the hands of somebody who's going to elevate it.
Correct. Yeah, I mean,
let's just get into this match. Let's do it.
This happened too late. I mean, I'm happy that it happened. Don't get me wrong. Like the right guy is holding the belt at the end of the day. But this should have happened right after the MJF match. This should have been like the first Dynamite. Wardlow calls his shot, has a TNT title match, destroys Scorpio Sky, goes on a run. They almost let the massive support behind Wardlow kind of fall off. I do think his momentum was kind of stunted. Good looking dude. Can definitely pull off wearing a Paisley button-down shirt. I still don't think that that's the right aesthetic for what you should be going for here with this absolute monster of a man. But the match was good. The match was solid. I think Scorpio got a little bit too much in on Wardlow if we're believing that this is the same guy who beat up 20 security guards and then wiped out however many MMA fighters that were there for the America Top Team. But I get not wanting to totally squash Scorpio at the same time. So it's a hard kind of balance you have to find. But the right guy has the belt, and now all of a sudden it feels like if you book it well and you book it correctly, you actually have a legitimate second title on your show.
You do, especially considering your other secondary title is being defended overseas right now, which I think is good. That's the intention of the All Atlantic title, but it also needs to appear on AEW programming as well. It can't exclusively appear on XCPW or underground German street fighting. Like it's gotta make an appearance on television. If it's AEW, even if it's Dark or Rampage or at the G1 Climax somehow. It's
Yeah.
got to make an appearance on a televised location, which is why the TNT title needed to be on somebody who is a spotlight player like Wardlow.
Yep. It's the sad thing, that All Atlantic title going to Pac was great in the moment because we said, think of all the matchups he can set up. And we actually did see on this episode of Dynamite a little back and forth between Malachi Black and Miro, which is going to be awesome. Give me 3 or 4 of those matches. Give me one at All Out. I want all of it. Take my money. Send me. I'll go back to Arthur Ashe. Give me another Malachi Black banger at Arthur Ashe. I'll be here for it.
Can I get it? And I know it's not popular in today's wrestling. Can I get a submission match between those two? I don't need a pinfall. I want the submission because that's where those two go. How many matches does, unless it's a little, I mean, actually, no, it's almost never with a little guy. How many matches has Miro won by submission?
Almost all of them.
It just makes sense.
Well, and it does make sense if you're okay with the idea of Malachi going over with a submission on Miro. And then maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be interesting. I think that there's so much there. Like, I think that's actually like the first time that they've put together 2 former WWE guys in a potential feud that could really elevate. And it could really be like a second or third most important storyline going on your weekly programmatic shows. So there's a lot there. There's a lot of meat on the bone with those two together.
But it doesn't feel like anything that program doesn't point out anything of disappointment to me. Like, I feel even mediocre, I'm going to appreciate it or at least be satisfied somewhat. I don't expect it to be mediocre because of both of the guys involved. I expect it to be above average to great.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's a good thing. That's a solid program that, week in and week out, you're going to get, you have the promos, you have the in-ring work, you have the characters. And I don't think at the end of the day, it's going to hurt either one of those guys because of, it could hurt Miro. I think it could hurt Miro more than Malachi because of how Malachi has been booked against Death Triangle. But, and the little weird thing about Brody winning that match, not Malachi. That was a little strange, but
yes,
he won it to lose.
I think there was a big part of Brody King winning that match instead of Malachi. I think comes down to, you don't want Malachi to have that loss to Moxley,
right?
Like, if you're gonna build him as the main event guy, he can't lose that match. Brody King, in an interesting turn of events, like had a really solid match, and we'll get there with Moxley. And it's not that you ever thought that he was going to pull it out and win that match, but it was more of a, how the hell does Moxley get past this guy? I think it actually elevated Brody King in a lot of ways. It made him stop feeling like a tag team guy as they've kind of built him so far in AEW. And it actually kind of gave a much higher ceiling. It makes you think like, man, you know what? Like, this goes the right way. Like, you could totally see Brody King challenging for the TNT title against Wardlow.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That match...
You could see that.
Who's to say down the road? Because I feel like Wardlow is going to hold that title for quite a while.
Good chance.
And at least I hope so. I mean, it needs it. That title needs to be held by somebody for 4 to 6 months to reestablish the credibility for it. And he's got to run through a lot of people. So maybe that's the guy whose stock rises. And that's the match where you're like, okay, this is the one that Wardlow could lose. Like, that's the legitimate contender. But that's carrying on with the show. There's a little backstage segment. Mark Sterling's in one. John Moxley's in one. It's the same Moxley. Everybody's got a target on my back. I'm the interim title. Every Moxley backstage interview is the same thing to me. It just feels the same to me.
They're
so
all the same.
I can't differentiate. Now, when he gets into a promo in the ring, it's a little more impactful because he interacts with the crowd a little bit. There's things like that.
Yeah.
That moves that. Mark Sterling's talking to Keith Lee about saying Swerve's a snake, something like that. Whatever. It's mid-card shit. I don't really care about it right now. But let's get to this next thing. Christian Cage is an absolute savage of a human being when just told to go talk. And Luchasaurus, man, you know what? Give me this Luchasaurus. This is the Luchasaurus we needed. This is man. He drug Matt Hardy through the mud, and he said some real egregious shit, like just some stuff you don't really want to come back from. But this is the Christian Cage I want to see coming on. I don't need him in the ring doing physical work all the time. You want to give me 6 Christian Cage matches a year? Cool. I'm good with that. Maybe a tag team match extra. But if you want him on the mic, that's his spot. That's where he shines.
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw a bunch of people saying after the fact that they feel like he's just kind of slid into the role of MJF, and I disagree with that on so many levels. I think the way that people are kind of doing it makes me think of they're trying to draw this parallel because these guys have good one-liners, or because these guys are saying the things that are taboo to say, right? But they're not the same. MJF, for better or worse, got to a point where he became likable for how much you're supposed to dislike him. And Christian has gone the route of wanting you to just hate him, period. And because he's so smug, and because he comes out looking like a Bond villain, you almost get this feeling that like there's nothing redeemable about him. For some reason with MJF, you're kind of like, the things that he was saying, especially in the big promo, you're like, all right, he's right about that. Well, that's also accurate. Oh, the thing he said about CM Punk walking away, yeah, that's true. There's accuracy there.
Is
the
it
Christian
weird to
Cage
me?
thing is just like,
Is it weird? So to me, this is how I feel about it. MJF is somebody who was a fan at one point and has grown up into the business. So he has the knowledge from outside of it, from his standpoint of growing up and watching these guys, especially the CM Punk program.
Yeah.
He grew up with that guy as his idol. These people grew up with Christian as one of their idols, potentially.
yeah.
So if
That's
he's
fair.
growing, if they're growing up with that, Christian has this inside knowledge. He has this intimate knowledge of the people that he's going against. And I guess I don't want to say a greater path. I'm not calling them smarter than MJF, but he has a larger band of wrestling knowledge and the backstory on a lot of these people. He knows what hurts them. He has the history of their programs. He's been there. He's seen it. He's been involved in it. So he can dig these things up that make people hurt.
Makes
And
sense.
he just feels like it's more guttural or visceral, I guess is the word, to me, than what MJF does. MJF is almost a product of his generation, where Christian is a product of professional wrestling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I
That
love
makes
it.
sense.
I love it.
Christian's such a good natural. He's such a good natural heel, and he's such a better heel than a face, without a doubt. He is so smarmy. He's so sleazy. The pop that's going to happen when Jungle Boy comes out is going to be massive, and that's also why it's so brilliant that they changed Luchasaurus's music, right? Because now when you hear the Baltimora song, now you're gonna know that it's Jungle Boy coming to save the day. Viscera,
Big Daddy V,
big
Mabel.
guy, big man.
Yep. Large man, giant pajamas. I do love it. This is, I think, currently, because it feels like everything got thrown into a loop with all of the injuries and everything like that. This feels like the best booked program they have going right now is this one. And it's cool because you're getting a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here, and it's not demanding everything of your product. You're getting the 3 minutes of it, and then it goes. And then next week you get 3.5 minutes, and then it goes away. I mean, we're getting Christian Cage, Jungle Boy, it all out. Like, that's where this is leading.
Yep.
I'm guessing no holds barred, probably.
It's where it should go. There's nobody else to kind of stand in the way. I did like the injection of Matt Hardy here. I like the real talk that we had there, because it's most of the things that people have said about him, about him being a clout chaser. And here's the problem. There's so much truth to what Christian Cage said that there's no way that the Hardys can come back and have a run. I don't see it. I think that if Jeff Hardy comes back, it's going to be a solo run. Matt Hardy doesn't move well at all at this point. And even him going up the stairs to get to the ring looked like a labor. You
Neither
you
one
see
of
that
them
and you
do.
go, he can't keep up. I mean, Jeff Hardy looked awful, like since he got to AEW. At no point did he look like even the end of WWE run Jeff Hardy. And so in that case, you just go, all right, how do we maximize whatever's left here? Matt Hardy as a mouthpiece makes sense. Matt Hardy actually as a mouthpiece who looks to elevate younger talent like he was supposed to do with Private Party initially, without the heel turn factored in, would be a very valuable commodity. But as an in-ring performer, it's not there anymore.
Here's how I want to book Matt Hardy, and I'm going to take
Go
a minute
on.
and a half to do this.
Go ahead.
I want him to pull people. Bear Country. Bear Country is a good example of somebody who he could take with them. They've got a little bit of personality, but they don't command time on TV. And this can go on Dark Elevation or YouTube or whatever you want to do it. Have him just like take people to the Hardy compound and set up this wrestling school, but Matt Hardy has no idea how to run a wrestling school. So he's learning how to run the wrestling school, but he's taking these. I mean, obviously, he would probably know how to create a professional wrestler, essentially. But give me that Matt Hardy, because he's at his best when he is creating the digital content, not in the ring. That's where Matt Hardy's. To me, that's where he's the best at.
That's fair.
So speaking of the whole two former WWE guys, the next backstage segment we get is a Claudio Castagnoli and Jake Hager section.
That was a good job out of you. Nice pronunciation.
I gotta try. I like my Italian foods.
Hey,
so I've never wanted to see Jake Hager in a program, but I think this is good for Claudio because it's a big, credible guy in the way of size, not necessarily the in-ring stuff. And it's really just, this isn't going to be, I think this is going to be 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. It's not going to be a program.
You know what the problem is, though, is that it has that feeling again of you had what was supposed to be the blow-off match. You had blood and guts. That was supposed to end this.
It makes sense, Absard.
Like, why are we doing more?
I think it's
why do we
because
have
you have a
Kingston
shiny
calling out
new...
Jericho again? Why do we have Claudio and Hager? You know, like what? Why? There's no need for it. It was
we'll
supposed
definitely
to
touch
end.
on that.
You know, like that's the whole thing. It should have been over. I don't see the need for it. And ultimately, like that makes this feel like a lot of the Jericho programs where it's just it goes on for too long. I don't need to see Claudio and Hager in the scheme of, or like under the guise of like we're back to these two teams again. Right?
Yep.
If you wanted to give me Claudio and Jake Hager 2 months down the line, cool. I'd be here for it. Hager, the problem is they never did a good job with Hager. And so they keep going back to he's undefeated in MMA. He's undefeated in Bellator. And then you go, all right, well, what has he exactly done as a wrestler in AEW? And there's not much to write home about. And so, like, I want to see Claudio go in against some of the smaller guys that AEW has and watch him just destroy people. I want him to come in and catch guys out of the air and fling them across the ring. I want the feats of strength. I don't need to see him in house battles. It doesn't make sense. Like, down the line, sure. Or if you're going to get him in a house battle where, like, there's a title on the line, all right, cool. But I don't need this. This could be a good match. It could be fine, but it better end after this. I don't need to see Castagnoli against Hager 4 times, 5 times. I just think it's a waste at that point.
Is this going to be one of those? Is this an issue where they're so ravaged by injury and you have a fancy new toy that you just want to play with it and you just want to put it out in front of people and show it off? Because that's what it's feeling like to me in this case.
I think that that's ultimately what this could end up being. Like, I think that this is just going to be one of those times where, like, Tony Khan kind of falls back on what he's used to doing, which is just, here's the new guy. We're going to play with him for, a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then he's just going to disappear. And I don't need that.
No.
I don't think anybody needs that. So that's my problem. That's what I worry about.
Yeah. So after this, we move into Butcher and the Blade versus Swerve and Glory. First off, we know Butcher and the Blade aren't going to win. I love Andy. Andy's one of my favorite guys on the roster, just based on a character fact. He's a good follow on social media. He's fun, but they're enhancement talent at this point.
Yeah.
They're two guys that are visually credible. They're visually credible, but they've been booked as such since the beginning that they were never going to be anything more than that. Which, you know what, whatever, good for them. And it's a good win for Swerve and Our Glory. Those guys are the guys that need to be elevated. Swerve Strickland's got all the talent in the world. Keith Lee is Keith Lee. We've seen what he can do in WWE. We've seen what he can do in the Indies. And he's an impressive talent. And the more that you keep him in the winners column, the better it's going to be when you have that inevitable match of him versus Wardlow or him versus Brody King or somebody for the TNT title.
Yep.
That's where Keith's going to be.
I agree.
You got Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks come out against that. I think that'll be a good match between those guys. Swerve and Lee. I like them, but it's another one of those things like how much longer are we going to go on with this program? We've been teasing it for 2 months now.
That's fair. It just sometimes the idea of long-term storytelling becomes too much of a trope. And it feels like nothing ever comes to the surface fast enough. And then you have like a Julia Hart situation where you're like, all right, cool, it happened. Yay. But it could have happened 2 months ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you end up in a situation where you wait too long and you end up with the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker deal where you took a year to do it. And it lost all its momentum.
You could make the case that they're kind of doing that right now with Young Bucks and FTR.
They are,
I mean, they technically had a match, a month ago, month and a half ago, but realistically, like, was it that big? And now you have this 3-way coming up for the AEW tag titles, and what do all the people chant? Like they won FTR, and the Young Bucks are like, well, I mean, we're better than those guys. It was almost like that caught them off guard, like that's like a real moment. I don't know if you got that feeling. But
it did.
It did.
I don't think they were expecting the crowd to buy that.
Yeah.
Wait. Like you said about Forbidden Door, I need the smarmy Young Buck heel. I need the smarmy Young Bucks against FTR. That's the Young Bucks I need. I don't need this self-aware, we founded this company, damn it, Young Bucks. I don't need that. I need we're clearly better than you, and we know it, but we're still going to be dirtbags. That's the Young Bucks I need. And it all out, I don't see that match going bad because of the teams involved. I think those guys work together, but it's a situation of where you look at something and on a calendar, if you sat down on January 1 and you said, I want FTR and the Young Bucks to face each other on September 4th at All Out, don't put those guys in a ring together until August, the second week of August. Don't put them in there. Put them in a 10-man tag in the second week of August after you start building that thing. Keep them away from each other for as long as possible, and you'll end up with it. It's weird because AEW does this all the time, and then at the pay-per-views, they end up with a good product, but the build is difficult to get through.
That's the problem. It's absolutely the problem. I don't know if you feel like this, but like you could make the case that this 3-way match could be fun, could be exciting. It could lead to Swerve and Keith Lee splitting. It could maybe lead to Bucks against FTR, but now you have this like weird complicating factor of FTR and the Briscoes on a Ring of Honor pay-per-view I don't care about.
Which we're gonna get. We're gonna get.
And all I want is to see FTR and the Young Bucks with all the belts on the line, and FTR claiming all the gold. And then, like, where do you go from there? It's actually a shame in a sense that the Briscoes don't have the Impact titles, because the Impact versus Ring of Honor titles would have been pretty cool.
Wait, because we are on the same page, but I think they're going to have them. I think there is going to be.
Are we on the same Ethan page? Are we on the same Hangman page?
I think we're on the same. We are on the same. Elliot Page is fine. Umbrella Academy is a fantastic series on Netflix.
I don't watch it.
It's good. But yes, we are on the same page on this. Okay. Any of those pages, possibly even the Brian Cage, Christian Cage. We didn't start the fire page.
Wow. There's a lot there. That's a
There
lot
is.
to dissect.
I do think there is a potential that we see that working relationship, not with necessarily AEW, but with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor and Impact happen. Ring of Honor needs name talent that's not on AEW, so Ring of Honor doesn't seem like just an extension of AEW. So Impact is the perfect place to work that from, especially because of how much of the women's roster from Ring of Honor moved over to Impact instead of AEW. So I think there's potential for that.
Yeah. I worry though, and maybe I shouldn't, but I worry that they're going to be so hell-bent on trying to separate these two things that ultimately you're still going to have a Ring of Honor promotion that isn't worth watching. Like, I do think that there's a legitimate possibility here that, like, they try to go so far in the, well, this is the same Ring of Honor that, all 10,000 of you cared about before. And, like, maybe they have some crossover, but, like, I don't know. Tony Khan came out publicly, I want to say it was on Masked Man show, and said something to the effect of, like, Ring of Honor is not going to be a developmental territory for AEW. And I don't know. There's part of me that thinks that it should be, because unless you're gonna take all of the people that you signed initially to be like the big time players once the WWE started making their cuts, and like unless you're gonna send Malachi Black and Miro and that ilk to Ring of Honor to headline over there, I don't think there's much worth seeing over there. And like I don't care about the indie talent that are on Elevation and Dark. Like, if you're going to move all that talent over to Ring of Honor, then you've kind of killed off the whole point of watching Dark and Dark Elevation.
So it's a weird situation, and I think this actually rolls into not the next segment, because I'm just going to breeze through it. Ty Conti slams Ruby Soho's arm in a door, and that whole thing just continues. It just gets kicked down the road to another day. After that, though, they were in Rochester, New York, which is the home of one exalted one, Mr. Brody Lee. So the Dark Order's in the ring. I think the Dark Order is the perfect candidate that, as they said at the end of this, we're turning a new chapter. They're a perfect candidate to go to a Ring of Honor and to develop, which I know Tony Khan hates to hear, but you don't have to be a developmental territory to like train yourself to be in the ring. You can be experienced in ring workers, but everybody needs to develop their character. Everybody.
I really want Dark Order to go away.
Well, and maybe that's the way they go away. Ring of Honor doesn't have a TV contract at this point.
I truly do wish that they had killed off the Dark Order when we had the it was the splintering, when Dark Order was like about to split in half. And then there was like is that when Hangman came back? Or no, it was Anna Jay and Ty Conti came down.
Yeah.
And they tried to kind of settle things. And honestly, I think they would have been so much better off if they had just let the Dark Order split then. Because this just has the feeling of when something is relevant and the people just don't know to let it go. And there's no finality to it. And what you ultimately have is just something that peters out. But there's not a nostalgia pop. There's nothing about the Dark Order that was ever really memorable. The only time that Dark Order was relevant is when Brody Lee was in charge, right? And even then you could have made the case that like, well, this is really just Brody Lee and a bunch of lackeys. And like some of them were good and some of them developed, but like none of them ever really pushed the envelope. Like 10, right? Preston Vance. Yeah. Has the look, at least physically. We don't look like what he looks like in the mask.
Oh, he's got that look too. He's very John Cena-ish.
He looks like a pro wrestler, right? They've done nothing with him of note on the TV shows. Have they done anything on Dark or Dark Elevation? I don't care. Johnny Hungy, love Johnny Hungy, right? I like a few of those talents. I just feel like they'd be better served doing something else. And I think they need to get rid of the Dark Order moniker. I think they need to get rid of the Dark Order music. I think they need to get rid of all of the imagery. Start up a new faction, like start up a trios faction that leaves the Dark Order in the past. I think they would have been better off if they had gone on Dynamite and said, we were at our best when Brody Lee was running this, and we still want to stay together, but we feel like it's time to leave the Dark Order behind and start a new chapter. You don't have to come out with what the new thing is called, any of it. It feels like it's never going to come back. Even if, like, on a weird whim, Wyndham Rotunda shows up as, like, the Dark Order leader, it's going to feel cheap. It's going to feel like, oh, they replaced, a member of the Wyatt family with Wyatt himself. They missed that opportunity. So I don't know what we're doing. I guess that's the problem.
And no, I'm with you on that. So you know what I think the problem is here? So I looked it up. I went and pulled a picture. I went and pulled a picture of Preston Vance, right?
Okay.
So I'm gonna drag this up, and here's the issue with this whole thing. Obviously, if it's actually gonna let me, drag it up, doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm just gonna say it out loud. He looks like Chris Masters, and I think that's gonna be the issue here.
Okay.
He looks like Chris Masters, and so like you pull the mask off of him, and you're like, "Who's the Chris Masters clone?" Like that's literally what he looks like. Anyway. I'm not disagreeing with you on the Dark Order. I think that there's better things that they could do. And when the Dark Order was like fun and interesting and stuff, they were doing all those weird vignettes and we had the different stuff. There was attention added to them. And if you're going to have those guys on team, just let them do shit like that. Then if you want them to be part of the comedy aspect of them, let them do that stuff. But this whole thing, it goes into the QT Marshall thing. And but once you include QT in something, it's either somebody's on the way up or somebody's stagnant and they're not going to get out of stagnant. And I think QT actually is one of the best bit players in AEW that they have because he is the chicken shit heel. He is the kind of scummy guy, but he's also the guy that's got the legitimate pedigree as a trainer. So the guys that they put with him, the Aaron Solo, the Nick Camarados, those guys, they develop well because of him, not their characters, but the in-ring work you can see has become better. Yeah. But you have to pull those guys away from him to get better.
And look, I think ultimately, you've now seen 2 members of Dark Order leave or not be renewed in the last month. Mm-hmm. It just feels like it's going to be a slow but sure death of the group. And that again, it's just like there's no shame in saying this didn't work. Or there's no shame in saying, you know what, we wish it would have worked out better. But, things changed. There's no shame in that.
It's been 3 years. And unfortunately with the Brody stuff, it just things happen. It's not that not that anybody wanted it to happen, but it just happens. I hate to say that. LT message him on Facebook. Or talk to Dakota or something. They had a family issue, so that's why they're not on tonight. But on the bright side, the next match that happened was Penta Obscuro versus Rush.
Oscuro. Penta Oscuro.
So, I only have 2 beefs with this match. One is that it's not a beef, but it's a beef. The way that it ended with the mask thing again. I know that's Rush's thing, but I think it is a little bit overused on it just based upon the whole the luchador stuff. And the other thing is the goofy fucking tombstone at the beginning.
Yep.
I don't like the goofy tombstone at the beginning, but these guys, that's fun. That's a fun match. I'm fine with that. Honestly, you know what I'd be actually cool with too? I want to see the 2 managers in a match. Like, I don't know, why not? We know what this is leading to. It's either leading to a trios match with everybody, or it's a tag team match. It's the Ingobernables versus 2/3 of Death Triangle. 2 acute angles of Death Triangle.
Stop. I just I thought that the Penta Oscuro thing was gonna stop when they stopped with the House of Black. And I'm kind of disappointed that they haven't just gone back to fun Lucha Bros. I think it's it just doesn't make sense, especially with Phoenix showing up in a flannel. And Abrahantes is no longer dressing up like the Crypt Keeper.
No.
it just doesn't land.
And man, maybe this is a means to an end with them stealing the mask. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what would be great? I hate myself for this. Every time the math gets... oh, man. Thanks, Sapsard. I appreciate that. Every time the mask gets pulled off, he comes out as a different personality the next week of Penta.
Okay.
I mean, maybe that's a thing. And I don't really care about that. I think Penta's he's not a serious guy, but he's a serious wrestler, if that makes sense. Like the character of Penta is not serious, but the character of Penta is serious. Anyway, Roosh wins. Roosh looks like $1 million. Now, if that guy could talk, we would be in business.
And therein lies the problem.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like, that's the issue at hand. Roosh, they have, like, here we go. I'm sick of feeling like I'm negative, right? But, like,
but here's the thing. We're slightly negative about stuff, but then at the end, they go and they blow our socks off of the match in the ring. It's, once again, it's the build up to it that is the issue. And I don't know why. I don't know why they do this. I'm teased the entire time.
Yeah, the sad thing is you sit back and you go, okay, if we look at this from a fundamental level, Andrade, they've mishandled, right? Andrade should be in the TNT title picture if you're not going to have him go for the top belt.
Mm-hmm.
They brought Roosh in. Okay, so is the idea that Andrade and Roosh are going to go for the tag titles? Is the idea that they're going to add a third member and go after the trios titles? Why is Andrade, who came in as like this big wig and like takes up the AHFO, why is he now like kind of deferring to Roosh? He said Roosh is the best wrestler in the world. Like, why? That doesn't make sense. Why is Andrade pretty much like a glorified manager at this point? Like, what are we doing? I don't like it. I feel like they've botched that. Andrade is a guy who, like, unfortunately, probably would be better off headlining Ring of Honor than doing whatever the hell it is that he's doing in AEW right now.
And Roosh was the Ring of Honor World Champ, so you can tell where those guys came. They can't talk, so we put them down there. The in-ring stuff is there. It's just it's the connection with the audience on a verbal level that does it. Very few guys get over with the audience purely on a physical standpoint, and we see guys that do, like Wardlow. Then he talks, and you're like, oh, the guy can talk, so let's put a mic in his hands. That's a guy that does that. So, once then we go back to another fucking Mark Sterling. Mark Sterling irritates the shit out of me. I don't mind seeing the dude on TV. He's a very presentable face to put on TV, but just get him off my fucking television. He's involved in too many things. However, Danhausen as a lawyer is just shit's. It goes sideways. That's the comedy bit that we all need for the night. Is you go through that. You get Danhausen as a lawyer. Oh, you're gonna have Orange Cassidy versus Tony Nese. Which, other than the fact that Orange Cassidy and Ospreay had a banger of a match, physically looking, Tony Nese should win this, and Tony Nese needs a win. Tony Nese needs a win big time to keep like any kind of level to it. I really like Tony Nese as a wrestler too. I can't explain it, but I really like Tony Nese. And we're keeping the comedy bits rolling
because Tony Nese has the look of a guy that should be a factor. That's why.
Oh man, talk about taking a swig of Busch Light and you think it was Dr. Pepper and then you don't. Like it's not that taste.
I'm worried about you.
No, I reached for the can and I wasn't paying attention. Pulled it up, took a swig. Not Dr. Pepper. I did that one time. I had a glass of lemonade and a glass of milk sitting next to each other, and I was turning my head and I was looking, and I pulled it and I took a swig and I went, "Yeah, it's not lemonade," because you prep your taste buds to get ready for that. Anyway,
there's nothing worse.
So we get the Gun Club versus the Acclaim, or Gun Club and the Acclaimed versus Roughing It, Fuego del Sol, and Bear Country.
Break my heart. Break my heart. We're never going to get another Anthony Bowens. The Anthony
Scissor me,
Bowens
daddy ass.
After everything goes to hell after the match, and Bowens stands up and he looks at Billy Gunn. He just one last, and nope. That's going to be fun. I think if they handle this right, that should be a really fun rivalry.
Did you see the image of it after the still of Colton grabbing his hand or I think it was Austin. I think Colton. Oh no, it is.
I don't know the difference.
It's Colton. It doesn't matter. The younger one
looks like Daddy Magic.
Yeah, the one looks like Daddy Magic. The other one looks like Daddy Ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But that'll be a fun little thing. That's a good buy-in match. That's a fun thing.
I have never felt so robbed in my life as I was when I'm waiting for the Max Caster rap and
you got pulled away.
I was so sad. And you could tell that crowd was so deflated. That is the ultimate heel turn, and we are going to get a face run out of the Acclaimed, which I think arguably we already had anyway, and I am here for it. I love the Acclaimed. Everybody loves the Acclaimed.
Anthony Bowens
Hey, Ethan.
is so good in the ring.
There we go. Okay, go ahead.
There we go. Oh, Gun Club and the Acclaim win, and then the Gun Club attacks the Acclaim, as we talked about. Then we get into our video package of Miro talking about Malachi, or against Malachi Black. We talked about that earlier in the show. Go back and listen to it. We're not going to revisit it right now until it happens. Last Scissor Me Daddy in Detroit. We did get the last
really
Scissor Me Daddy in Detroit.
That's
and
true.
then actually we got two of them. Actually, we got two Scissor Me Daddies because we got the Rampage too. Then we got to a match that I got to be honest, I don't care about because Thunder Rosa is just it's wearing me down to watch Thunder Rosa come out to the ring every week, and it's so disappointing to me because I used to be like, I love Thunder Rosa. I want to see Thunder Rosa. That's what I want, and now it's just not there. But Nyla Rose, Marina Shafir, and Thunderstorm, and boy, do I love Tony Storm. Just absolutely
looks like a
love
star.
Tony Storm.
Wrestles like a star. Talks like a star. Is a star. And it makes it look that much worse when you compare that to almost everybody else on the roster, almost every other woman on the roster.
Britt Baker,
the lack of star power and star factors is so evident.
Her and Britt Baker are going to be that, but I think so. For the longest time, I'm like, man, you got to get that title on Chris Statlander. I think when this Thunderstorm thing blows up, Tony Storm's walking away and looking like $1 million with that title. She's, to me, with putting those two together, she's the one that has to win that. I need her to win that because that's going to re-elevate that division back up. It's going to give that division a sense of stability. And I think the first person to come for that title on Tony Storm, the first legitimate challenger, is Jade. Because Jade versus Tony is the realest matchup you can put on the women right now. I mean, physicality-wise, Jade versus Nyla makes the most sense, but you don't need Nyla in that title picture anymore. The way of like, these are the two. This is your top babyface. This is your top heel. No, it's Tony and Jade.
Yeah, probably.
We got a lovely.
They're the two biggest stars in that division. It's always funny to me, like when Thunder Rosa comes out and it's like, oh, listen to the pop for Thunder Rosa. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, it's big in Texas because that's where she's from.
Not a champion, not my champion. I didn't vote for her. Not my champion, Thunder Rosa.
So Jade's next one we get is a Stokely Hathaway thing in the backstage, which I love. Stokely,
great stuff. Stokely's
love
great.
It, fantastic. His interim baddie. I feel like they just give him a mic and they say, talk. Here, you do your thing and whatever happens. Then we get yet another build to a Ring of Honor bit with Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. They're going to face each other for the pure title at Death Before Dishonor, which we now have 3 matches for. The big challenge for that pay-per-view is the next one. That's FTR calling out the Briscoes, and that match is going to have a lot of implications if, as we said, the Briscoes end up with the Impact World titles. If the Briscoes end up with the tag team titles, that match instantly becomes a must-watch for me. To this point, not a must-watch. I'll watch it afterwards because they had a good match the first time, but I'm not going to buy the pay-per-view for it.
I'm not buying that pay-per-view. There's no chance. 0. They would need to pull out all the stops for me to care, and I don't. That's it.
Yeah. Then we get to the main event. The main event on this match was a really good main event, and I think it was a good showing, actually, for both people. As Clint said, Moxley didn't bleed. It's Moxley versus Brody King for an AEW Interim World Championship match. Yep. Moxley didn't bleed. That was important. Russ, you have brought that up multiple times over the course of it. It's very important in a Moxley match for him to not bleed.
Very shocking.
It was, especially with the physicality that happened in this match. Brody King is a very imposing person, and I think this shot his stock way up. This match did.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Super happy about it. Also, I really liked the ending of him hitting the paradigm shift, but not going for the pinfall because he's just going to kick out. I have to do more. That spoke volumes about Brody King and his in-ring ability.
I agree.
So ends on Moxley. Overall, I don't like to give things value ratings. I think this is a very solid show after a very I don't want to say overwhelming, but a very good show last week as well.
Mhm.
Which kind of brings us into something else that's been going on here. We've been talking about, well, I don't think it's a negative thing. I'm going to bring this up and let's discuss this a little bit here. So we have,
Very interesting, this is.
let's see if I can get this. Oh, that's not it. I'm still a little bit puzzled on this. So I found this banner, and this works out great because we're sitting on the sides of it. This is the total viewership over the lifetime of WWE for the last, believe it's the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not here to rag on WWE about anything other than their sharp tank that they have right here, which is currently their lowest point. It's actually the touch that we have here. This is also AEW's lowest point. Is not even a month, 2 weeks before WWE hits their lowest point of this time. So wrestling is literally at its lowest point, and this pay-per-view, this right here, that's blood and guts. This one right here, that's blood and guts. That's what happened here.
I don't think your mouse is showing up there, so I
okay.
don't know if that's
so
working
you see
in the way
that there's
you want it to.
there's two dots. There's two dots right before the end. The one just before the last one, that's blood and guts, and then we have the dip off to this week, and that's in the 18 to 49 viewership range. I think that's very important and very telling that these companies are converging at a time when I think they both should be on a trajectory to go upwards. You're coming into the SummerSlam season swing. You were just coming off the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and it's very telling that you dropped so rapidly or aggressively going into the Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Wrestling doesn't.
It's horrific.
The Raw one's terrible. The SmackDown one I don't actually think is that bad of a drop. If you look at the course of the time, it's a bad drop.
Big.
It's a bad drop, but when you're Thursday or your Friday night,
3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
It's not great,
wrestling
though.
in the summer just doesn't work, man. Wrestling in the summer doesn't work.
Roman Reigns went away.
Oh yeah, you can tell. So if you look at that April 2022, where they're both at their peak, not necessarily the peak of SmackDown. The peak of SmackDown is in January of 22. But you look at that April, just after WrestleMania. Look at how high that is, and then look at that drop when Roman hasn't been on television for 6 weeks, right in the middle of May or whatever it is. That stuff fell off. So
you see that dip in Dynamite. Doesn't that coincide with Punk getting hurt?
Yeah, that kind of the dip there after April or after June. Yeah, that coincides. You have that very high
Punk
build.
injury, and that's the shift to the New Japan stuff.
Yep. I think across the time, the biggest positive thing that I see from wrestling at this time is if we want to backtrack a year, while they're not at the same point, they're about 40,000 viewers apart. The August 21 to July of 22 ratings things are almost at the same point. So if this is telling, we should see a little bit of an uptick here coming across, and we should see that on both companies. Hopefully, man. Like at the end of the day, I love wrestling. I love wrestling. I want both companies to do well. I'm not a guy who wants to see WWE fail. I don't want to see that because I want to see the competition bring out the best in both companies.
Hold on, bring that back up because there's one huge thing.
Oh, the Rampage drop off.
I would love to know what happened when Kenny Omega was defending the Impact World title and Christian Cage had it. So that would have been months before the August 2021. I would love to see where viewership was when they were doing that crossover.
Because it's funny on that, but I can find them.
The way that you hear people who really believe in Impact complain that it's not getting the attention that it deserves. It's like, look at this, though. Like, that's your problem. That TV deal they have is not advantageous in any way. It's not getting in front of a big enough audience. And, like, it's hard to sell the numbers that you have. The Rampage thing is insane.
Well,
and the Rampage thing is a massive issue on a few levels, right? Because, all right, let's play the game here, okay? August of 2021 into September of 21.
Yep.
It shoots up. And if I remember correctly, that's when we were seeing some pretty big matches. I think they were still relying on...
That was the beginning of Rampage.
That was relying heavily on Punk. Punk was wrestling every week.
Yep.
And then things started to kind of take a big dip.
That was the Punk, Christian Cage, Kenny Omega. That's when that was.
And then you started to see this weird booking where it became more of a developmental, where it was secondary and tertiary guys. When they were matches that should have been featured on Dark and Dark Elevation, started getting booked for Rampage. And here's the problem. And this is the thing that for some reason doesn't get enough attention. There are two reasons that Rampage doesn't feel special. One, it happens way too late. 10 o'clock is a terrible time slot. It has not given them the lead-in that they might have hoped they were going to get from SmackDown. They'd be like, oh, well, I just finished wrestling. Let's go to another wrestling program. That hasn't translated. That's not happening. The match booking has been atrocious. They're not featuring enough of their stars. And that's where I get so frustrated with this notion of like, well, there's only 3 hours of television a week. How do you figure you're going to get all these big stars on TV? Well, that doesn't hold weight because you're not using one of your 3 hours in a meaningful way. And what that does is make the show feel less special. You're less likely to tune in. But here's the other thing. And now you have gotten to experience a live AEW show.
Yes.
What happens after Dynamite? It's
Rampage.
35 minutes or so for them to swap everything over. It might have been longer because you were at Blood and Guts and you had the cage and everything. But like 30-ish minutes between Dynamite and Rampage, where it's already late at night.
Oh,
and
yeah.
people have a long drive ahead of them probably from a lot of these shows and like getting out of arenas and everything, right? You figure most sports games finish at 10, 11 at the worst if you're at a baseball game. So now you're expecting those people to stick around for another hour of wrestling. But the problem with it is there's no reason to stay because the Rampage matches that you're going to watch are never going to stack up to the Dynamite matches that you saw. And
Because
so now
you
you're
use
sitting
the
there
same
going-
guys.
And because now you're sitting there going, all right, well, do I really want to stay for this extra hour to watch like mid-tier wrestling? And the answer most of the time is no, because you're not booking that show for people to stay, which then makes the crowd smaller, which makes the crowd sound burned out because there are less people there to watch it. Like they're compounding the issue. I'm not saying that they should record Rampage first because then it makes no sense if you're trying to carry over storylines from Dynamite to Rampage. But you might have to get more creative. Like you might not be able to have a Wednesday Dynamite with a storyline that carries into Friday Rampage.
I
You
want
might
to
have
see
to start running some things where it goes Rampage for not the live Dynamite that's about to happen, but for the one after. Or Rampage leads to Rampage. You can't keep this up. It doesn't work.
So what I'm curious about, and I would have to do a lot more research on this. The live rampages, which one of those spikes is when they do a live rampage as opposed to a pre-taped rampage, or to a taped rampage?
I mean, the live ones you would assume have a better rating, right? Because
you would think
there's
so.
There's at least the excitement factor that something could happen, that nothing's going to get spoiled. Pull that up because there's one that I can think of where there was a spoiler that came out.
Yep.
Pull the thing back up.
Ba-ba.
All right, let's look at. Yep. Okay. So what I want you to look at is late December 2021.
Yep.
You'll notice that there's a high mark.
Yes.
Do you know why there's a high mark?
That was the spoiler for.
It was a TNT Championship match.
Yep. That was the Sammy Guevara one, right?
Against Cody, and
Yeah.
Cody won the belt.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
that's why that was a bit. So
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Rampage has been absolute shit since Cody Rhodes was on AEW television.
There you go.
I think we.
No, but you know what I mean.
Just
Like that one was a pre-taped show, but there was a big match on it. And yes, like the spoiler got out, so people tuned in. But like, who the hell's watching wrestling Christmas Eve? Well, people obviously tuned in for it because they wanted to see that match play out.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, it
You know,
happened.
you can make Rampage worth watching, even if it's pre-taped. But you need to have good matches on it, and you need to feature some of the top talent. Like, do I want to see Malachi Black versus Miro be the Rampage thing? No, I want to see that get a really legitimate placement in Dynamite. But
So
you know what you
the
can do?
Rampage. Oh, go ahead.
Wardlow's got the TNT title.
Yep.
I'm not saying that Wardlow should only live on Rampage.
Nope.
But I'm saying Wardlow maybe starts setting up programs on Dynamite to defend his title on Rampage, and sometimes defends on Dynamite, but brings legitimacy and makes you want to watch Rampage because you like Wardlow so much. You want to watch him tear through a bunch of other dudes.
I had a blast watching the Rampage that was taped after Blood and Guts. I had an absolute blast watching because of what came first. That Royal Rampage, they did it so quick, and I don't know how it came across on television because I didn't watch the television one except the end of the Brody King because I wanted to see how the shot looked from TV. I had such a blast watching that though because of what it was. It felt good. It felt like it was moving. But when we got to that Young Bucks match, I was dead tired. We got up and left after that match. My wife wanted to see the Young Bucks. That's her favorite. She wanted to see them. So I said, we're staying for that. And I felt bad that I was missing Tony Storm, but I'm like, I would have put those matches on first and had that show end with Brody King.
Yeah.
To keep those. Oh, man. But yeah, anyway, just touching real quick on the Death Before Dishonor. I know you're not going to buy it. Samoa Joe versus Jay Lethal. So once again, we are back to TNA circa 2005. Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia. I think it'll be a good match. I'm not a super big fan of the pure roles. Yep. And good then the one that should main event it is the FTR Briscoes match. That should main event that pay-per-view.
Because Gresham's there.
Well, if he has a match.
Why wouldn't he have a match?
Because it's
he cut a promo on Dynamite.
What was that? What was the?
He cut the promo. He cut the promo about how he should have been considered one of the best technical wrestlers in the world, and that he's going to prove why he's the best in the world.
So what are we getting? Claudio Castagnoli versus Jonathan Gresham for the ROH title?
That would be interesting, especially because Tony Khan admitted that he was originally going to bring Claudio in for this show. That would be a really interesting. I'll tell you what. There you go. Claudio versus Jonathan Gresham. Claudio wins the Ring of Honor World title. Then you come back. Blackpool Combat Club has the Pure Championship from New Japan. Or no, yes. No? Yeah. Where's the Pure Championship from?
Ring of Honor.
That's Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So you've got the Pure Champion. You would have the Ring of Honor World Champion. You would have the interim AEW World Champion. And then you would have Bryan Danielson just kind of hanging out. Hopefully getting healthy soon.
And let's just big thoughts on the
we want him back.
Yes, we want him healthy and on our television because Bryan Danielson is an absolute treat to have.
That's exactly right.
Just going to touch on two other things real quick. One, Paige is out of the WWE, so she wrote a really good piece in the Players Tribune. If anybody wants to check that out, I highly recommend it. It's almost everybody that writes pieces in the Players Tribune ends up being a pretty good piece and some good literature. So I would recommend reading that. And then I touched on it before you arrived here with your sultry dulcet tones.
Yes.
Liv Morgan, what's your opinion on that? On her winning that?
On her winning Money in the Bank?
And then the early cash.
And then the title? It's fine.
Okay.
Apparently, Ronda Rousey wanted somebody with a lot of heart and whatever to win it. And I think it's fine. Do I think Liv Morgan's like a long-term champion? No. Do I think she's like a super credible, believable champion? I don't know.
Yeah. I do.
You know what I'm more interested in? Go ahead. And I'm going to tell you the most interesting thing.
I think she's going to end up with that Bayley deal where the first title run, because she's such a goody two shoes, you're going to see it and you're going to go, wow, okay, it's cool that she won it, but it's not going to be the biggest, most credible thing in the world. And then after that, you're going to go, okay, whatever next time she gets a title, she's going to go, this is what I need to do to be better. But I think unless you're thinking of a person beating her for the title, that I'm thinking of. So I'm going to listen to yours. Let's see what do you got. We'll roll this.
Will this let me share a screen? Yes, it will. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. I have to grant access. Hold on a second. This is going to be a thing because I want to show you. I don't just want to tell you. I want to show you. Let's do this. Hold on. Here we go.
Special dark.
Oh, I can't quit and reopen. No.
All
right. Let's see if this lets me do it. This is a really good show. Here we go. Tell me if this shows up. Nope, it's not going to. Okay, no. Whatever. Go over to Sasha Banks's Instagram,
Okay.
because you will. I want actually, yeah, you do it. Pull up Sasha Banks' Instagram, and I want everybody to see there's been a change, and I think it's very, very notable. I think it's a
The
change.
Mercedes Varnado part?
Yes. No. Pull it up. Pull it up. Pull it up. Pull it up.
I'm not well
Why
versed in
can't-
this.
You hit share screen
I don't even know how to do that. Russ, you're asking the wrong person here. I am
at
not.
the bottom of StreamYard.
Oh, this?
Hit
Okay,
share.
hold on a second.
You hit share, and then you hit share screen, and then you pick the window. You pick the window that Mercedes
share.
Varnado's. There we go. Come on.
Share screen.
Yeah. Good show.
Let's
This is
do
good. This is good at the end of the show.
Share.
There we go.
Is that?
Right,
Are we in
there
it?
We are. That's just
Okay.
us. All right, you're sharing us. You're not sharing.
Oh,
You're
you
not-
know
you're not
what?
sh-
I have to.
Oh, boy.
Whoa.
Oh no! Look at this. It's Inception.
That was.
just
We
did
were in
Inception.
Inception. Hold on. I
Hold on.
have
All right,
3
let's try this again.
screens.
Oh my
Share
gosh.
screen 2. Okay, there we go.
There we go. Hey, what does it say under Mercedes Varnado? Athlete.
Professional.
What does it say
leaf-
underneath athlete?
The Mandalorian? Professional
What? No.
wrestler?
Professional wrestler.
Wrestler.
Now, I'm not sure about this as I grab one of my kids' colored pencils. I'm not sure that has always been there, and I'm not sure that it's never been there. But what
You know what?
pro
I'm gonna go
wrestler
play around on the
who
way
works
back.
for WWE has professional wrestler in their bio?
I don't know.
I'm gonna guess not
stop
many. Your
sharing.
screen's
We're
still
looking at
shared, by the way. There you go.
Yeah, well, it was just
So
NHL draft.
your
shit.
homework for next week is to find out, like, go back through the old internet cached,
Yeah,
versions
yeah,
of
the
that
way
page.
back.
I want to know if that professional wrestler thing is new or not.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna find that out. Because that
Boy,
would be
can
an
you imagine-
interesting bit.
Can you imagine Tony Storm wins at All Out against Thunder Rosa?
Yep.
Or somebody does. I still think that what we're ultimately going to have here is Thunder Rosa is going to turn heel. Thunder Rosa turns heel at All Out. She wins by devious tactics. And then you know what happens.
We get Snoop
Mercedes
Dogg.
Varnado. Mercedes Varnado shows up. Apparently, she's been taken off of the internal roster with
Yeah.
WWE. It was
Read that as
PW
well.
Insider that reported that. So
Yep.
we'll see. We shall
Citing
see.
your sources. So anyway, yeah. Fantastic having you tonight, Russ. I was really glad we were able to talk about this stuff. And shout out to Trevor for hitting on 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and 4 of his predictions from last week. He had Bianca, Rousey. He called Bobby Lashley winning the U.S. title. He's the only one that was on here to do it. And he also called Liv winning Money in the Bank. So a big shout out to our tech intern, Trevor. But I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Russ, you've got a very important thing to do. Where can the people find you at after this?
Well, find me on Twitter at JoyOnBroad. And of course, you can, if you're so inclined to listen to some NHL draft talk, you can check out Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. We'll also be live streaming on YouTube, I believe, under the Crossing Broad YouTube channel. So youtube.com/CrossingBroad.
All righty. I think I'm going to tune that in after we are off of here. And so once again, that is, I'm useless on this thing. That was Russell Joy at Joy on Broad. I am Ethan Hubbard. You can find me at Jensen Collins 3. We are on a Forklift pod. And obviously PK is not here with us tonight. Thank you for watching us on UPN tonight. We were streaming a little bit early. And remember, like, share, subscribe, follow, find us on Facebook, all that good jazz. We love you, Judy, and we will be back next week.
If you don't like the Hubbard, put him in the cupboard. Huh?